Hello everybody, you are welcome in English class. Today we are going to study about Victorian age, one of the important period of English literature. It is named after Queen Victoria, who was born in 1832 and died in 1901. This is known as the Victorian period. To understand literature very well, of course we need to have some historical event, historical situation of that period. Now let's see. It was the period of material affluence. It means they were the people, many of the people of that period were materially prosperous, they were rich, and that was the period of political consciousness. Politically, also, people were so much conscious, and it was the period of the democratic reform. Democratically, people were quite conscious, and there was constant reformation in democracy. And another features of that period is industrial and the mechanical progress. At that time, there was the mechanical and industrial progress. Another feature is scientific advancement. Scientific advancement in scientific field, there was lots of progress. Consequently, there was social unrest. People were so much inquisitive and so were restless. And there was educational advancements and education, science, technology, they were moving so fast. Empire building, another features was empire building, as there were so much development in industrial sector, so they had extra production. That's why they need raw material from other country and they need market in other country. So empire buildings was essential for them. Religious uncertainty, it was the periods of religious uncertainty because Charles Darwin developed the theory, the origin of species. So people started believing in Darwinism, and some of them they believe in religious that is constantly that was followed traditionally, and it was the period of peace and prosperity. Okay, now let's go to the another dimension, that is literary dimension, and what was the literature of that period. Now let's go. Literary features of this age: individuality. Individuality, they have individual distinctive characters of their writing. Okay, rather than following the shortened classical culture, they use their individual characteristics in writing. It is the age of prose and novel rather than poetry and drama. There was originality of individual writing, and literature was basically based on certain norms and value of ethical and moral value were associated with literature. Literature was not considered only the sake for literature, it was considered as the sake of society, to give the guidance to the society, to improve, uh, to bring improvement in society. Development of the realism. Writer of this period started writing in the real thing rather than imagination. Ecstasy, tension, escapist tendency. Some of the writers they try to escape from the real problem, and there was a continuous reformation of every sector. There was a mixture of pessimism and optimism. Of course, another important thing, another important point of that time, the literature was always closely connected with the patriotism. That was the strong feeling of nationality. Always there was comparison between rich and poor. There was polarization of the rich and poor. Poor were very poor and rich were very rich because of industrialization. The industrialist and the businessman become rich, and the labor and peasant become poor. And there was the good combination between realism and romanticism. Okay, now let's go to who are the prominent writer of this period, who contributed a lot in writing literature. One of the important period you can see in the screen, major writer, among the major writer was Alfred Lord Tennyson. Okay, his some important books. Well, Timbuktu, poem by two brother, poems, memoriam, Ulysses, the Falcon, Queen Mary, Tear Idle Tales. These are the important books, and his feature writing was very a smart writer of the metrical artist, and he maintained the Victorian balance, and of course in his passion was properly managed, and it was, in proper direction, in proper order. In his poetry you can find lots of use of assonance rather than alliteration. Harmonious rhythmic pattern is another characteristics of his writing, and minute observation nature, pictorial artist, great lyricist, and his writing in short used to express lots of feeling. That was his laconic expression. You can find in expression there was economy. Okay, another writer is Robert Browning, was born in 1812 and died in 1889. Okay, its main work, Pauline, Sadello, dramatic lyrics, in a gondola, meeting a night, parting at morning, inner psychological analyst, and his features are love lyric, obscure to understand. He used to write a little bit complicated, using lots of big imagery, dramatic monologue, metrical artist, optimistic philosophy, popular in both poetry and drama. These were some of the characteristics in his writing we can find in all genre. Next writer is Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Okay, let's see her main works. Main works are The Cry of the Children, Poems Before Congress, Seraphim, etc. Her feature writing, humanitarian and deep pity, sympathetic and tear-evoking, love poems, personal and emotional. These were the features we can find in her writing. Okay, another writer is Matthew Arnold, was born in 1822 and died in 1888, and his main works are The Scholar Gypsy, Cultural Anarchy, Essay on Criticism, Translating Homer, Friendship, Garland, St. Paul and Protestantism, Literature and Drama, God and the Bible. Okay, his feature of writing, prominent critics. He was the prominent critics. He analyzed different sort of the texts, literary texts, and give opinion. He was the poet of head rather than heart. It means he was reason oriented, and he was the great emphasis on the aesthetic aspect. Aesthetic aspect was his center in writing. He followed the Greek tradition. Okay, his poetry is the criticism of life. He gave evaluation regarding the lifestyle of the people. He was the master of criticism, and he was the poet of nature. Okay, Charles Dickens. Now we can see another important writer of this period. Okay, Charles Dickens. Next one is the William Makepeace Thackeray. Another writer is George Eliot. Next writer is Charlotte Bronte. They are Bronte sister. All right. And next one is Thomas Hardy. And next one, another important writer is Thomas Carlyle. Next writer, John Ruskin. Okay, there are so many. Just for your sake, it is enough. Thank you very much for your listening. Thank you. We shall meet in next class.